there. And I'm very excited to be joined today by Jeff from HostGPO. Jeff, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here. I'm Jeff Alulian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of HostGPO. I've also been in the vacation rental industry for about 10 years now. So I operated a vacation rental portfolio before starting HostGPO. And so very knowledgeable and experienced in the space and excited to be here and share some of that knowledge with you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. So today we're going to talk about how to optimize your guest experience and return on investment. And we're going to be talking both about how to leverage group buying as well as smart Wi-Fi solutions, and how StayFi and HostGPO actually work together. Um, so just a little background on StayFi. We were founded to help every short-term rental operator, no matter their size, become more profitable by becoming less dependent on OTAs. So StayFi provides a host of solutions and tools that not only help you collect guest data, but also help you market your independent brand back to those guests, so that they come and stay with you again and again and switch from booking on OTAs like Airbnb to booking directly with you. And then, Jeff, do you want to give a little background on HostGPO?
Yeah, absolutely. So HostGPO is a buying group for folks who need to buy furniture, linens, mattresses, amenities, rugs, art, decor, smart home technology, pretty much anything that you need to set up your home. We have over 300,000 properties who've signed up to be a part of HostGPO, which is how we get the guaranteed best discounts at all the different companies that we work with. We also have access to a bunch of exclusive brands and products that are only available for distribution through HostGPO. So that is a little bit of context on HostGPO, and I'm sure we'll get into what some of those products are and how they can help increase your ROI too. So one of the things that I think we really wanted to talk about today is just setting up your property. And that can mean so many things because at the end of the day, this is the most important part of your business, right? Your property is your product. It is what you are truly putting out there for folks to stay in. And there's so much that goes into it from a standpoint of planning, interior design. If you're going to go in that direction, are you going luxury, mid-level, basic? But there are some things that, regardless of what kinds of property you're going to set up, there are these rules, these maxims that kind of apply to every different type of property. And that's really what I want to focus on today. Is I want to give everybody here and everybody listening just the big takeaways that you can use no matter what kind of property you're setting up, and just some things to think about. So that's kind of how we're going to approach these slides, and I think maybe it'd be best just to jump right in. So and a lot of this, if for helpful context, a lot of these are things that I learned myself after having set up 250 properties, and going through all of the chaos of 48 shopping cart IKEA checkouts and going to a flea market with two giant U-Haul trucks and moving crews and scouring Facebook Marketplace. I did a lot of these things, and after doing that, I learned that one of the most important things for setting up a vacation rental property or any sort of hospitality property in general is just that you want contract grade furniture. And what that means is different depending on what company you're buying from. So there are certifications for contract grade. So there's BMI certification, there's a couple other ones, and they test things like they put chairs into a rumbler and like rumble them for a certain amount of time and see whether they're going to fall apart or if the screws fall out. Or they'll put them on a platform with a 300-pound weight on top and say, hey, can this last with a 300-pound weight without taking any damage to the frame, for a period of 8 hours or whatever. So they're testing this furniture and they're giving it different certifications, and it means something different depending on which company you're buying it from. But one of the really important things to just keep in mind is every brand, whether that's West Elm or Pottery Barn or even a ton of other furniture companies that you might be buying from, those brands have contract grade furniture, but you often have to filter for it. It's not like everything that's on West Elm is contract grade. That's just not how it's made. Now, it's everything from West Elm in general is going to be better quality than everything from IKEA, but certain items are contract grade, and just focusing on finding those and identifying those items can really be a needle mover for your business overall, because these things are built to last, right? Contract grade furniture is built to last. It's what hotels use. It's what restaurants and hospitality groups use. And when you think about what the ROI on having a contract grade item is, forget about just the fact that you're buying better quality furniture that might look better, that might drive a higher return when somebody's actually booking your place. The other kind of part of the ROI from contract grade furniture really comes from the fact that if a chair breaks, or if that pull-out sofa that's not meant to be opened 100 times, over and over again, right? If those items break, you have the cost to replace it, potentially a day where you have to block it off, pay for hauling away and removal, and put in another one that potentially will last longer. And so if you're actually doing this like a business, or you're actually focused on your bottom line, and you're not just operating a vacation rental because you're out of town for 3 weeks a year and you want somebody to stay there, which is a very different use case. But if you're really operating a vacation rental company, and you're doing things like collecting guest information for advertising and marketing purposes afterwards using StayFi, you're also going to want to focus on actually investing in the quality of furniture that's going to last and provide that ROI. And so the question that we get asked the most often after explaining kind of what contract grade furniture is and how to access it is just, well, does everything need to be contract grade in the house? And the answer to that is no, right? Sometimes folks, you don't have unlimited budgets, and contract grade furniture sometimes can be more expensive than kind of regular furniture. And the thing that we always focus on in educating people on is you want to make sure that the West Elm and Pottery Barn stuff that you're buying, especially if you're buying it through HostGPO at a discount, right? You want to make sure that anything that's getting touched or moved, if it is on a heavy basis, that those items are going to be contract grade. That's kind of the main thing to focus on. So bed frames, dining chairs, coffee tables, and sofas, certainly the highlight reel for what should be contract grade in a house. And then Arthur, maybe we can pop on to the next slide. The other, unless you have questions about contract grade furniture, Arthur.
No, I had no idea what that was, so I learned a lot. So
there you go.
yeah.
The other thing that we talk about a lot is just when you're investing in the property, you want to provide a good night's sleep, and there are ways to do that cleverly and intelligently that won't break the budget, right? If you're buying a HostGPO mattress through our kind of Helix partnership or something like that, you can get, for argument's sake, 50, 60, 70% off the retail cost of that mattress. So you're going to save money there. But what you really want to be focusing on is the main bedrooms. So the person that's leaving the review, right? You want to make sure that person is that person is having a great night's sleep for sure. And so you can go what we call high-low, where you're going high in terms of the quality and price point for what you're buying for the bed and the mattress in kind of the main bedroom. But if it's a trundle bed or a bunk bed in another room, where you have a couple bunk beds for kids and stuff, you don't necessarily have to buy the same mattress for all of those rooms. And so providing a great night's sleep for the guest that's leaving the review is really essential. And the three kind of main things we always talk about are mattress, linens, and blackout curtains is kind of the three main things that you want to make sure. And especially folks that are kind of getting into this midterm or extended stay rental space, that's even more important, because those folks aren't just staying for a weekend, they're staying for a week at a time. And things like the quality of the mattress will start to become noticeable, even more noticeable after just a few nights of sleep. So those are kind of the essentials from a bedding perspective and providing a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I was surprised when I used HostGPO, Jeff. I was really interested to see how less expensive some of these products are versus retail. So I don't know, do you have any just kind of like anecdotes of how much people have saved, let's say, on linens by going your route? Because that's where I was really shocked by just the huge differential between retail and through HostGPO.
Yeah, I mean, what's really fascinating to kind of call out there is just, I think people spend on mattresses, they buy these Amazon off-brand manufactured overseas mattresses that, who knows how long they've been packaged for. They don't generally come with warranties. They're made with whatever kinds of products. They're all foam. They're not that comfortable. They're okay. They're not terrible, but you can get a quality hybrid coil and foam mattress at less expensive than if you were buying that on on Amazon. So if you're buying like the Zenus mattress or one of those on Amazon, right? You can get a quality hybrid mattress made in the USA, made to order, shipped to you at less cost through HostGPO because you're saving, 70%, 65%. So, that really does make a huge, huge difference. And the same thing goes for linens. I mean, you can buy hotel quality linens that like Marriott and Ritz and Hilton use, like the same ones at pricing that's less than what you're getting on Amazon for just way better quality. So, ultimately, folks just don't know about buying groups and kind of how they work, and that's why we're here. That's why we're getting the message out. The other thing people ask about a lot, and this is a very hot topic for those of you that are on, Facebook regularly and in Facebook groups and stuff like that. People are always talking about amenities. What amenities do I have? Do I have enough amenities? Should I have more amenities? What's the ROI on each amenity? And I think the first thing to talk about when you start thinking about amenities is just who are your guests and who are you trying to cater to? I think people often, you have to narrow down the entire world of amenities down to what is actually practical and what's going to move the needle for me. So figuring out like who your target guest is, people talk about that all the time, but they just say generally like, oh, know your guest avatar. Let's talk about what that means, right? If you are a traditional vacation rental market that is catering to family stays because your home is 6 bedrooms, you're going to want things like this giant Connect 4 set or some sort of games featured or things like that are going to appeal to kids. And, we have a partnership with Yard Games, which is a great company that makes these like big novelty size, games and stuff. They're great for photographs and they're like really fun to have in the home too. But I think it doesn't have to be that just to have an amenity means that it's an expensive thing. It's a differentiator, right? There are bare essentials that you have to have, like soaps, shampoos. I think there's guest expectations that they're going to show up, especially for a short-term stay, and not buy shampoo, which is a new concept for a lot of folks. It's still surprising to me how many folks don't offer that or have started only recently offering that. But I think that knowing who your guest is and then trying to make an amenity that matches what they're having. I mean, look, you can look at other listings and comp listings in your space and see what they have. Make sure that you have at least that much, but then get creative about it, right? I saw a vacation rental property as an example. This wasn't something that was super expensive. It's not even something we sell through HostGPO, but they had a Nerf gun wall. So they had an entire wall that just had like 50 Nerf guns on it. And that really appeals to families that are traveling with kids. It's something unique that'll make your property stand out. And when you're thinking about, amenities, that counts as one that as a gamer activity that's going to be really unique. The other things that are kind of just absolutely essential, kitchen supplies, making sure you have enough supplies, making sure that if you sleep 8 people, you don't have 8 forks, right? You want to make sure there's a 1.5 rule for the kitchen. You want to make sure that you have at least 1.5 of everything for how many your place sleeps. And there's a 3-par rule for your linens, by the way, which for those of you that don't know, par count means and has to deal with how many of each thing you have. So you want to have 3 flat sheets, 3 fitted sheets, 1 on the bed, 1 in storage, and 1 presumably being laundered. That's how hotels do it. It's kind of the right way to operate your linen count as well. But going back to amenities, making sure you have enough kitchen supplies. If you're making sure that you are really being thoughtful about your amenities and what kind of amenities you're using. And again, it doesn't have to be super expensive, but you want to make sure that you're providing at least the essentials that everybody else has so that you're on an equal playing field. And then something unique, something that caters directly to your guests.
What are some of the cooler, interesting amenities that you have on HostGPO you've seen people use and love and help get their properties to stand out?
Yeah, I think some folks have these giant Jenga sets and giant Connect 4 sets from Yard Games that are really cool. I know a lot of folks who have beach properties. We have a great partnership with Linus Bikes, and so they sell these really cool looking beach cruisers. So I think folks generally tend to go down that direction. Having a great coffee setup. I mean, we have the Nespresso machine featured here. We get a discount on that. So that is an important one. And then we've seen people through Solo Stove and through some of our other partners offer things like pizza ovens outdoors, or even these fire pits, which are great. And what's really cool is if you're in Oregon or Texas or any of these states that have really strict fire regulations, these smokeless fire pits are actually the only ones that are allowed. So I would say some of the cooler ones, I've seen pizza makers, the Nerf gun wall I talked about, and some pretty sophisticated and advanced coffee setups.
And do you see anyone, or how do you guys approach branding amenities? Like, do you think that's a good ROI to get branded amenities for any of these types of goods where you're featuring your, brand and building that rapport with guests that you're not, just an Airbnb?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I think people get really, I'm just going to say, I think people get reckless with the branding. They're really focused on, okay, I'm gonna make mugs and give everybody that stays here a mug. That's really freaking expensive. Are you gonna give everybody a $10, water bottle and they stay at your house? Like, unless you're a giant brand where that makes a huge difference, I think that that is really expensive and that's just ongoing returns. Now, what I do see people do is invest in your brand in a way that's one-time cost that's going to kind of amortize over time. And so what that looks like is get a cornhole set through Yard Games that has your brand on the cornhole set, right? Everybody's going to see it. They're not taking it with them, and that's a one-time purchase. I see people all the time doing really cool keychains, through Mark and Graham or through Society 6, who are also partners where that's on the keychain, and people are going to look at that every time. And so your brand is getting out there. Now, the most commonly branded amenity are going to be things like this, what's on the screen right now, that little soap and shampoo kit. You can do branded versions of those. Now, I would say unless you have 10 or more properties, you're going to have to buy so much of that, or you've been in this business for a long time, you're going to have to buy so much of it just because the minimum order is pretty high, that you can, it probably won't make sense. Although, what is cool is that we have members who buy this version, which is a generic version of this little welcome kit. It's super inexpensive. That welcome kit, that whole box with the soap, a shampoo, a lotion, a body wash, and a cleansing bar. In that little box, it says "Enjoy your stay," and it's a pretty good quality product. If you're curious, we can send you some free samples of that stuff. But what I see folks do is they'll buy that and they'll actually just go and print out cards like with their branding on it, like business cards almost, and they'll put them inside each kit so that when somebody opens the kit or put it on top, so when they open the kit, it has that card, it has that branding, and you have that thing, but you don't have to order the minimum. So I would say branding is super important. It's something that I wish I did more of in my business earlier on, because you're building long-term value in your company, not just kind of short-term value. But I do think people get really carried away with branding in terms of like, I want to make all these custom things that I'm going to hand out on an ongoing basis, or I need to spend a ton of money to create a brand. Like, focus on the easy wins, right? Focus on when you're collecting email addresses and then you're sending out that marketing, focus on making sure your branding is really strong there, right? Look, and you have, images, or you have, a logo and things like that. That's where to invest first before you really start to get into like heavy branding giveaway type stuff.
Yeah, no, I love the putting it on items that stay in the property and will be used and people look at a lot. I think that's a super intelligent tip. And that way you're not, replacing expensive water bottles or doing takeaways. So I hadn't thought of that. And I think that's definitely a great idea.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen some.
Sweet.
I've seen some really cool stuff though. I will say, I did stay in an Avant Stay property recently. That the property itself had its own beer, which I thought was pretty insane. Had its own beer fridge with branded beer inside of it.
And
Wild.
that's sick.
Yeah, next level. So
Yeah.
people are doing it, but I don't think everybody needs to be doing that. Um, or should we keep going with updating current properties? I see you pulled
Yeah.
this one up. So, what to stock and restock? This comes up a lot too, right? So setting up a new property is one thing. If you're setting up a new home, that's a pretty big endeavor. Quick plug for this free checklist we give out. If anybody's setting up a new home, we have this free checklist that has a list of all the 600 items or whatever you need to set up a new home from the ground up, and it actually has which ones are actually marked as an amenity on Airbnb and Vrbo. There's a little logo next to each thing, so you can see and make sure that if you have that item, you're actually on those sites and you check the right amenity box so that search engine optimization, you rank higher, etc. So that aside, people always come to us and say, well, okay, I'm not setting up a new home. I'm restocking a property. How do I use HostGPO on an ongoing basis, or how do I, make sure that my units stay profitable on an ongoing basis? And so, if you want to pop to the next slide, here's just a few tips to keep in mind. Um, you know, uh, Cute on our marketing team to throw out Target and Costco. These are really, really expensive. If you are buying your linens from Target or Costco, there is a lot of money you could be saving to get higher quality stuff, but also when you start factoring in things like time and availability of inventory, it becomes really expensive to buy from a place like Target and Costco. I mean, when I was operating, we used to have a van that would go to Costco every other day to pick up supplies because we didn't have anything like HostGPO available. And so, what that means is, panic buying things at the last minute, not having a supply of items to pull from for your cleaners to pull from is very expensive. And so, making sure that you have those items, ordering it in bulk, I put in quotes because that just means ordering from somewhere where you're going to have enough that you can grab a few replacements of. And the second important part of that is making sure you're ordering from somewhere that can restock and resupply you with the same product. And so we talk about hospitality linens a lot. Our partner, Standard Textile, they're the largest hospitality linen company in the US. One of the reasons why we partner with them is this company's been around for 80 years. And so what that means is they have the same lines of linens, the same lines of towels that have been sold to hotels for years and years and years. They're not changing. And so what that means is when you need to replace items, you can get the exact same sheet delivered to you. And you're not going to have to worry about, oh no, is that line that was at Target from, Threshold still around, or did they change it, or is it a different color? And all of a sudden you end up with a bright white, pillowcase, a off-white, duvet cover, and everything looks unstandardized and honestly loses that kind of luxury halo effect of having all white, linens and hospitality linen. So one thing is just ordering from somewhere that has restock and inventory at less expensive pricing at super high, high quality that you'll be able to order from again. Talking about hospitality in general and what makes a hospitality sheet different than like a Target sheet, you'll see you can wash these sheets. They're graded. We're talking about contract grade furniture. These are commercial hospitality grade linens. And again, means something different from every company. But what it means from Standard Textile is these sheets are graded to go through 100 commercial washes before they start experiencing any fraying or damage, which is unbelievable when you think about how many times you can wash a normal sheet and how many turnovers you're going to get out of a normal sheet before or a towel before it starts to fray and come apart or thin, etc. These are meant to go through 100 commercial washes. Now that's like going to a laundromat where they run it through the enormous machines. Those washes actually inflict more wear on your linens than just a normal washing machine would. So hospitality grade linens that can go through tons of washes, that Centium core technology that they have, that really speaks to both the durability of how the linens are made. It's literally sheet tech about how these things are woven to last for longer, but also things like, I mean, I don't want to, we could do a whole thing on just linens, but like they're woven. Arthur, think about how crazy this is. When people are talking about, well, what makes a linen stain resistant? What makes a towel stain resistant? Think about this. If a lot of people buy 60-40 blend or 70-30 blend, which means the blend of polyester or synthetic yarn with cotton. And it gives you why do people buy blends, right? Well, generally they tend to not wrinkle as much, they tend to lay out flatter. They also tend to be more durable. They go through more washes. 100% cotton, you don't generally have to iron, etc. And so people generally tend to go towards synthetic because it's less expensive. It might not wrinkle, or maybe that's what you're interested in. Now, when you're thinking about this Centium core technology and sheet tech, the fact that this company, the way that I've been to their factories before. I mean, we source and vet our partners very deeply. What they do, they actually have the synthetic yarn on the inside and they wrap it around the outside with the cotton. And that is a proprietary tech on how they're weaving these. So unlike if you just go buy a 70-30 blend, it's just kind of all mixed together and they're making it as cheaply as possible. This company is manufacturing these things in a way so the cotton is on the outside. And what that does is it makes it feel better to the touch, but also those of you who are have been in the industry for a long time and done enough loads of laundry, that cotton sheets tend to release soil much easier than synthetic fabrics that get dirty or soiled. And so what that means is that's why these are stain resistant, because they're anything that's woven with sentient core technology actually has the cotton on the outside, which means that it's going to be the part that actually releases the dirt more. So when you start thinking about, well, how much am I spending on sheets? What if you could buy the same price that you're spending at Target and Costco or less and get something that's quality, that's meant to go through 100 washes, and that's actually manufactured for, hotel type use. So how is that for your education on sheet technology?
I mean, I've never seen someone so excited about linens, but I'm definitely bought in. So
Yeah, there you go. Um, and then, you know, amenities, again, like there's no reason why you should be buying giant gallon sized pumps where everybody's touching it and it doesn't feel, clean necessarily for guests. I mean, these bottles on the right over there that are, a 10.5 ounce bottles that you can refill with these bags. I mean, for $4 a bottle, and this refill bag, I think refills it 6 times for $8. I mean, that's a pretty insane deal. And even these kind of smaller bottles, by the way, this includes free shipping and stuff for these amenity kits. I mean, it's just so expensive to buy. It's so inexpensive to buy quality products now, especially if you're buying it from the right place. So you might want to think about updating your amenities in the house. Nice way to make a difference and show guests that you really care. Um, Last couple ones I'll just throw out again. The Helix Hospitality mattresses are our number one selling HostGPO mattress, and the reason for it is because it's a mattress by name brand Helix. It's not available to the general public, although you can buy all Helix mattresses through HostGPO. And this mattress is just the baby bear of price, comfort, value. You're buying an $1,100 equivalent mattress for about as cheap as you can get a mattress, and it ships in a box, and it's a hybrid mattress. So if you do join HostGPO for that 3-month free trial, which we'll talk about at the end, like this is just a great way to upgrade and change. If you have a mattress, you're having a mattress complaint, a great way to kind of replace and make sure that you have something that's made in the US and is comfortable for your guests. Oh, the last one I'll just throw out. We have a great partnership with Rugs USA. This is the number one seller on, they're the number one selling company on Amazon, or top seller on Wayfair. And what we do at HostGPO is we just go directly to the brand that's making the best stuff, and we'll make a deal with them directly so that we get better pricing than what's available to you on Amazon on the same products. And so a lot of people will leave rugs dirty for way, way, way too long. And if you're trying to shampoo a rug or hire a professional cleaner to clean a rug, oftentimes it's less expensive to donate that rug if it's not totally worn down. Just replace it with a new, fresh rug that will totally change the listing itself. And so it's something that we talk about a lot because it's something where people don't normally think to update their property, but it really does make it feel new and fresh. And we encourage people to look at their rugs often.
just before we switch over to StayFi, I was kind of
Yeah.
curious, how would you advise somebody to, budget for either a new property they're setting up or an existing home they want to update? Like, where is the best ROI to spend their dollars? And how should it, maybe proportionally be broken up in like different areas of the home?
Yeah. So I would say here just a couple of rules of thumb, regardless of what kind of property you're setting up. One, optimize for your photos. And so what that means is that first photo, that hero shot, the one that you're going to put on your main listing, that's where you want to spend most of your money out of the gate. Because you want to make sure that that picture has enough stuff, whether that's a big piece of art. We have this great partner, Giant Art, that makes these like 6-foot canvases that are pretty inexpensive. So whether that's optimizing for a big piece of art or making sure that you have a really cool table or chairs or whatever, if it's a living room shot or a dining room shot, if it's a living room, making sure you have those throw pillows or whatever else you need, right? That's a great place to spend money out of the gate, is on your first photo, whatever you think is going to be your first photo before you start buying anything. And then after that, I talked about a couple places where I think if you're trying to figure out, okay, I'm trying to stretch my budget as far as it can go, I would say focusing on the main bedroom bed, like we talked about, that's a great place to spend. I would say focusing on contract grade furniture because it's going to last you longer and give you longer returns on your investment. I would say contract grade furniture for things that move, physical items that move. And then last but not least, I would say focusing on making sure that when you're buying your, like when you're doing your budget, don't just think, oh, well, I need one set of bed sheets because that's how much I need to get started, right? Like that's not the right way to approach that. So making sure that you're buying hospitality sheets that are going to last you a while, but also buying enough of them that you're not going to be panic buying at the last minute.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Jeff.
Sure.
And we'll have time to chat more and do some questions at the end as well. Um,
Great.
yeah, I'm just gonna shift over and just talk a little bit about StayFi and kind of how HostGPO and StayFi come together. And of course, StayFi has an offer on HostGPO for HostGPO members, and they have a pretty special offer that we don't provide anywhere else. So definitely encourage everyone to go check that out. Um, but really with StayFi, you're spending this time and energy and effort to optimize your property, to invest in the guest experience, to provide that fantastic night's sleep. But if you aren't doing something about branding and marketing, like the sad reality is, like all of that effort you're putting in is accruing to Airbnb or Vrbo's benefit, right? Because most guests will come in, they think they booked a quote unquote Airbnb. They probably aren't aware that you have your own brand or direct booking site. So StayFi is a great way to, even if all your guests are booking through an OTA like Airbnb, to introduce and collect their data so that you can remarket to them again and again. So with StayFi, we collect Wi-Fi data. So what that means is when a guest comes to your property, and if you're using StayFi, when they log into the Wi-Fi, they will see your brand on a captive portal, just like the experience you would have had at a Starbucks or hotel, um, or an airport, where when you join the Wi-Fi, this captive portal loads. So with StayFi, that portal is branded with your information, and on that page, you can collect name, email, phone number of the guest prior to them then submitting that information and getting on the internet. And that way we can collect data from 80+% of all the guests that are in the property. So not just the booker. So that way you've created this fantastic environment with HostGPO. And now you can actually collect that data so you can market to those guests because they're definitely going to want to come back again and again. And then some other places where StayFi can help gather data is through your PMS. So with StayFi, we have an email marketing tool as well. So you collect this data and now you get to actually use it and market. We also go into your property management software, whether it's Lodgify, Hospitable, Guesty, Hostaway, Hostfully, etc. And we'll actually pull in any other guest data you've had there into our marketing tool. So everything is in one place to do marketing to any guest that's ever stayed with you if you have their information in your PMS. And then we also have the tools to collect emails on your website. So you can make pop-ups, forums, etc., so that if people are coming to your website, you can collect emails from them there and even trigger things like submit your email and get a 10% off coupon off your next stay. So you can automate that type of interaction as well. So kind of like the overall experience we want to create here at StayFi is first collecting data. So from the Wi-Fi, from your PMS, from your website, we're going to be collecting data from just about every source that you can imagine. And then obviously with the help of HostGPO and some of our tools, you're going to provide that great experience. And then through StayFi again, we have all the tools you need to automate remarketing to those guests. So what that means is, for instance, every guest logs into the Wi-Fi, we can then trigger a series of emails to them, encouraging them to leave a great review, to rebook your property. You can share some of your favorite tips and recommendations while they're even there at the property. And that way you can enroll every single guest on a seamless series of marketing emails that can go over weeks or months or even years, so that guests are getting regular reminders in their email inbox to come back and stay with you again and again. And then if you really want to take the extra mile, you can even offer incentives in those emails, whether that's a discount code, an amenity, something like early check-in, late checkout, items in the property. We see lots of creative ways outside of just price, where hosts and property managers are offering value to guests that make them want to book direct as opposed to going through an OTA again. This is just a view of what that Wi-Fi experience looks like for guests. So they log into the Wi-Fi, they see this splash page with your branding. They enter their information there, they hit connect, and then they get taken to another page that's also created in StayFi, and it's called the home page. So the guest logs in, and then they get taken to this page that's kind of like a link tree for your listing. So you can have links to things like a guidebook to book this property again, and even links to upsell partners. So we have two partnerships, the HostCo and Viator, I'll talk about in a second. But essentially, you can sell upsells to your guests on this page, whether it's early check-in, late checkout, as well as tours and activities, and make additional revenue that way. And that way, we're funneling all the guests that stay with you through this page, where you can advertise not only useful information, but also these types of upsells for guests to book again. And you might be wondering, what's the point of, let's say, early check-in at this point? You can send this homepage to guests prior to the stay. So there's a link for each property. So in your property management software messaging, you can send them this page and let them know, hey, if you want to purchase early check-in, let's say it's available here, as well as all the relevant information. So from the very beginning, you're communicating proactively with guests, providing them value, and differentiating yourself from the typical Airbnb that's not going above and beyond to provide these extras and helpful recommendations. Here's just an example of what that homepage looks like again. So upselling opportunities, essential guest resources, that would be your guidebook. And then of course you can make other buttons that go anywhere you'd like. And all of these are property specific. So every home will have its own homepage, and you can put, whatever custom links you want there. And that's just really making sure that you're going above and beyond to give guests all the information right at their fingertips and not just limiting it to the booker. And that's what's so important with StayFi is we see folks spend money on creating these great guidebooks, whether they're PDFs, whether they're through companies like TouchStay or Hostfully or Folio, but they're only sending them to the booker. And we can't really trust the booker always to share that information with everybody else. In the case of StayFi, because everybody's logging onto the Wi-Fi, they're all going to have this information at their fingertips. So you can start engaging the non-booking guests with that valuable information. And so they're not calling you or asking you questions because the booker didn't share the guidebook and all the information wasn't there. So really, we see ourselves as that touch point where you can introduce your brand to every guest and make sure they're not only booking with you again, they're also getting all the valuable information and upsells you want to share with them while they're at the property. Here's an example of what our partner, the HostCo, looks like. So they handle upsells that you are selling. So that would be things like early check-in, late checkout, and then you can create other services as well. Some great examples I've seen are things like mid-stay cleans, pool heating, rentable products. So maybe you have these bikes or a boat and you want to rent them to guests. And here you can actually rent them with insurance so that everybody's covered when you're renting these types of items. And then of course they also have some partners. So things like in-home massage, yoga, personal training, different types of delivery services. And so with our partnership with the HostCo, you get one of these stores for free for each property, and they'll be included in your homepage. But of course, you can also share with guests prior to the stay. And that way you're creating that holistic experience that's going above and beyond for guests, where they can access all of these hotel-like amenities or even things cooler than hotels typically offer in a short-term rental. And with the HostCo, a lot of the partner ones at least are just, being delivered by their own partners that they're sourcing, and that, all you do is get a commission when those services are booked. And then the other partner we work with is Viator, and they're the largest tour and activity marketplace in the world. So through StayFi, you can sign up for Viator as well. And if you recommend to guests any of these tours and activities, you get an 8% commission. And that is if someone clicks on one of these links and books within 30 days. So that's a great thing. So you may have a list of favorite things you love to do in your area. Through StayFi, you get set up with Viator, and then you can share those helpful links in advance because experiences, especially in a lot of destinations, are what's going to make the trip memorable for your guests. So you can share them, whether it's whale watching tours, different city tours, bike tours. They have activities just about in any location you can imagine. And then you share those with guests prior. You say, hey, these are our favorite things to do. They book it. They have a great time, so they want to come back again. and visit your property, and you get to make some extra revenue from that sale. So everyone really wins when you're intelligently recommending these types of experiences to guests, both prior to arrival and then, of course, through StayFi while they are there. Um, yeah, and then I'll just talk a little about email marketing. We get a lot of questions about how to do email marketing effectively. How should I market my brand to all of these guests that are staying with me? A lot of StayFi users have never done email marketing before, and suddenly they're overwhelmed with just the amount of data they're collecting, and they don't know what to do. So here's just a few useful types of camp.
it's like a whole job. It's like a whole job for some people, you know. It's a lot.
Yes, it is, but we make it super easy, and the way to start is through automation, and that's with the guest Wi-Fi welcome series. So you just set up a series of emails in StayFi. We have a ton of templates available for you. You can even make these plain text emails where you're just writing in your voice. That's a great option that we have as well. So you don't even have to worry about design. And then these just get sent automatically to every guest after they log in. And I see people set these up for even a year. So they're sending one every 30 days for a year. That's where I recommend everyone start out, especially if they're not sure if they're going to have time to do a newsletter every month, right? So you know that everyone's subscribed in a series of emails, no matter what else is going on in your life, or dealing with a lot of people have full-time jobs too. So just this is a very simple way to get it done and not worry about periodic emails and creating those. Beyond that, newsletters is something to add once you kind of are going to the next level. So if you have, 5 to 1,000 plus members of your email marketing list, it might be time to consider adding a monthly newsletter where you're just letting folks know about different things in your area. And then these are some other automations. I say booking anniversary is the other big one that I definitely recommend. And that's where whatever window you'd like people to book in advance, you can set up through StayFi an email that gets sent out, let's say 9 months since your last visit, and it says, hey, you stayed with us 9 months ago. If you want to book the same property again, now's the time. Because we know the further in advance people book, they typically pay a higher rate and stay for longer, especially with direct bookings. So just using that intelligent marketing to know, hey, it's time to come back again, especially if you operate in a destination where you get a lot of people who travel there once a year. See a lot of people, for instance, in Hawaii have success with this because a lot of people just go to Hawaii in the winter or spring break every year with their family. And now you're intelligently letting them know at the right interval in advance that they should come back and start looking at properties before they all get booked. Yeah, here's just what this can look like in real life. Here's an example of a real StayFi customer, and this is the email they're sending automatically to everyone who logs into the Wi-Fi. They introduce their brand. Here, they actually run their own concierge, as opposed to using a tool like the HostCo. So that's a little more sophisticated. Obviously, they're larger, but here they're really pushing those upsells because typically people log in on the first day and they're staying in this destination about a week. And like I said before, we can't always trust the booker has shared with the other, let's say 10 people staying at this home, that there are all these cool activities to do. And this way you're getting that in front of everybody on the first day so that if they're interested, they can reach out to you and book those. And then there's less emphasis on booking again. You can't see it here, but the whole email, but you can see on the right here, after 5 days, they do send an email that's more aggressive about booking again. So they send, hey, hope you're enjoying your stay. Here's a code for your next stay with us if you book directly. And that way they're making sure everyone who's staying there leaves knowing that it's advantageous to come back and book directly with them for their next stay. Yeah, and then a lot of people ask me kind of like what is realistic with StayFi in terms of uh, what have people achieved in terms of direct booking. So there's examples here of people that were all different places. So Cottage Stays, that's a company that had around 25 listings, or they have 25 listings in Ontario, Canada. She was already at 70-80% of her bookings coming directly because she's been in the business for 20 30 years, but with the help of StayFi they're actually completely 100% direct. during their high season, and she's had
That is
success.
so insane. 100% direct
Yes,
during high season. It's like the most insane number.
yes, and even she uses her email list to push the shoulder season, which is challenging where she's located. So she is able to get more bookings in, the October, November time period, where before it was very hard to get those through OTAs because they're like, hey, come back for a different type of experience than just the typical summer cottage stay. Uh, and then the flip side, we have a company like Cozy Vacation Rentals, which is a 200 unit operator in Texas where they started at zero. So for them, moving to 0 to 30% is saving them, millions of dollars, both on OTA fees, but also filling nights that otherwise would have gone unbooked because they're advertising through email. So range of,
Smart founder, and operator, Matt Durrett, great guy. And really, you know, it speaks volumes. I mean, all for those of you that don't know, these companies that are on here, Heirloom and everybody else that's on here, these are big vacation rental operators that all started small, but these are industry leaders, and so this is what they're using. It's a lot of them are HostGPO members too, and we talk about that a lot. But I think it speaks volumes, Arthur, that you have folks like this giving testimonials and talking about your company.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people just underestimate the power of email marketing because it seems old school, or they think, oh, because I don't respond to emails, that means nobody else does. From a cost perspective, it's still ranked consistently by marketers to be the highest ROI channel, just because unlike running digital ads, which can get very expensive, like once you have the email and most people do not unsubscribe. In fact, you can email that guest forever at a very low cost for the software to do so. So it's still the highest ROI channel, even though sometimes people, think otherwise. So I definitely encourage, if you haven't looked into email marketing or you've been hesitant about, can it really work for me? Definitely give it a try. And we have a lot of helpful tips on how to make it work for a short-term rental company. Yeah, and here's an example of a monthly newsletter from the same company. So once Juniper got to like 1,000+ contacts, they started sending these newsletters because it was worth their time. And this just shows you kind of like the template that you can build in StayFi and all the options in terms of beautifully displaying properties, different ways to show homes in the context of an email. Again, this operator, I think it's important to note on their website, they also collect leads for homeowners who want to have their homes managed. And she's not at the stage, right, where she's like segmenting the newsletter by prospective homeowner versus guest. So she actually includes information about property management services in this email as well. So it's an email that covers both sides of her business, whether they're homeowners or guests, so that you're presenting this consistent appearance of a sophisticated property manager that's going above and beyond somebody who just lists on OTAs is doing. And of course, her homeowners are also subscribed because they get to see their properties marketed through this channel. And again, that's a big differentiator when your competition is primarily focused on OTAs. Sweet. That brings us to the end of the presentation. I'll just say, we have a promo code here, HostGPO, for 50% off the 3 months. Although if you are a HostGPO member and you log into your HostGPO account, we do have an even better offer available there. So I definitely encourage you, if you do use HostGPO or you become a HostGPO member, that you wait and see the offer in your HostGPO account, because it's definitely the best one that we have out there in terms of ongoing savings for using StayFi.
Awesome. And if anybody has any questions, feel free, raise your hand, drop them in the chat. Um, you know, I have a couple questions while we're
Yeah, go for
waiting
it.
for anybody to I'm just curious, Arthur, from your travels and your traveling, obviously you use Viator and have those partnerships through StayFi, but any experiences that you've booked or that you've enjoyed on your travels through companies like Viator?
Yeah, I have. I definitely it's funny. I'm actually going to the Scales Rental Conference in Barcelona. And I remember
Oh
last
yeah.
time I was in Barcelona, I did like a night tour of like like a Gaudi house through Viator, which I remember was a great experience. There's some like classic ones, like anyone that goes to Chicago does like the River Architectural Tour in Chicago, which is
River
like,
architecture tour is great. It's the best
yes,
tour there is.
everyone does that. It's right there. I see people advertise it. And then I've seen some really weird ones in some of our customers' accounts on Viator. So like a Jeffrey Dahmer tour, and I was like, there's some really interesting tours on Viator, and you can pick and choose the ones that are represented. They also have like tickets to a lot of attractions like theme parks. So kind of like the classic items that, everybody who goes to your destination is going to buy. So why not present that up front because your
Sure.
guests are going to go there. So, I booked some really cool ones. It's a great way to just like see what's in the area as well. But yeah, and now that I look into a lot of StayFi users accounts, I'm discovering some even more interesting, escape rooms, all that kind of stuff is available. Even if you think you think, oh, we operate in, this urban market, I don't think there's a lot of tours and activities. I've seen like escape rooms, brewery tours, winery tours, like all sorts of things that,
Sure.
maybe you weren't even aware of in your city that now you're offering up to your guests.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a taco tour recently. That was a taco crawl. It was great.
Yeah.
And also found it through the listing I was staying at. So creates a great experience, and that kind of stuff is the best. You're talking about branding. This stuff is relatively inexpensive on your time. It's pretty quick and it lasts. So these people often forget about the basics, and I would say making sure that you have something set up with your email marketing and are collecting, not just collecting, but actuating, operationalizing and using those email addresses the way Arthur was talking about. I mean, this is some of the best return on your time.
And a big one I've seen with the host code that's been very successful is early check-in. So
For
they're
sure.
sending guests either the host co or our homepage prior to arrival. Guests are purchasing early check-in anywhere between like $20 and $50. Often the property is going to be ready anyways, and then you can approve that. And I really think that, you have so many scenarios where guests are arriving in a city at early in the morning. Their plane arrives at 9 a.m. The place maybe isn't ready till like 2 to 4 p.m. And they don't really know what to do, and they have luggage, right? And that's a way that was very hard or manual to do before, where now you're giving guests that experience of like really saving the whole day for them, where they can now drop their stuff off and like have a whole day of experiences that really again differentiates the experience from the typical Airbnb that lacks
Such a no,
your
such a
individual brand.
no-brainer. Such a no-brainer. Cool.
Awesome. Well, I think that brings us pretty much to the end of the hour. And like I mentioned before, this will be available on StayFi's YouTube channel, and then we will send it out in our newsletter and to everyone who registered. So you can watch again. And then, of course, what's the best way for anyone to reach out to HostGPO, Jeff, to sign up or learn more?
Yeah, hostgpo.com, and GPO stands for Group Purchasing Organization, which is the type of business that we are. So hostgpo.com or at hostgpo on all things social. So feel free to follow us, check out our site, learn more, or reach out. We have a live chat on the site too. You can connect with our team, which is also made up of hosts. We really like to help out other hosts that are getting started or looking to upgrade and update their properties.
That's awesome. And I know we have a lot of host GPO members that are StayFi users who love it and get a ton of value out of it. So definitely recommend that you check it out. And then for StayFi, just go to stayfi.com. And if you want a demo, you can go to stayfi.com/demo. And there you can either attend one of our weekly webinars or book a one-on-one demo with one of our StayFi folks. So you can get a walkthrough of the whole platform and they can answer any questions from setup to marketing to PMS integrations, anything you're curious about. They can address one-on-one with you so that you can have the most success when it comes to marketing your properties. Sweet. So thanks, Jeff,
Cool.
so much. And yeah, have a great
Thank
rest of your
you.
day. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Arthur. Take care.
You
Bye,
too.
everybody. Thanks for coming.